Hey dudes, my name's Blako, and I'm pretty excited to say that Okashi Towers, which is my multiplayer real-time strategy game with tower defense elements, is now finished. Well, at least it's finished enough to transfer from early access into the full release version. I'll leave a Steam link down below if you want to check it out. So what does that even mean, and what all did I do to finish the game? Well, let's get into it. I've been working pretty much non-stop over the past few months to try to make Okashi Towers the best I possibly can, and to prepare it to go from early access to the full release version. I wanted this to be a massive upgrade over the early access version to make it worthy of calling it a complete game. There's a long list of features in this new update, so I just want to quickly go through them. The biggest feature, and the one I'm probably most excited about, has to be the story mode. In addition to adding a tutorial system, I wanted to make a complete story mode for people who just want to play the game by themselves. As part of the story mode, I also added a bunch of new Steam achievements that you can get from playing through all the new levels. Of course, it still has all the multiplayer modes like the free play system where you can make custom lobbies to play custom game modes with up to 8 players or bots, and the matchmaking system which allows you and 2 of your friends to queue up to play 3v3 matches. There's also been a pretty big art overhaul of the game. I ended up drawing a lot of new artwork to spice up the UI in the game because I wanted the first impression of opening it to actually feel good. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but let me know down below what you guys think. You might notice that some of this artwork is used on the store page now. I wanted to unify the branding of the game with the actual game itself. The old store page artwork was pixel art, and while most of it on its own looked fine, some of it was actually really hard to see in some of Steam's lists, especially because it's using a reduced color palette with similar colors that blend too much together. And also, I've heard a lot about how generally pixel art games should still use digital art for their branding on Steam. And honestly, after swapping it out, not only does it make it more readable in Steam's lists, it definitely seems to have helped with traffic to the store page, so I think it was worth it. As part of this artwork overhaul, I also wanted to make some new music to fit the new main menu and tie everything together. Next up is a small change but makes a huge difference. I added world previews in the selection menus so that you can see what the world looks like before you actually hit play. This even works with custom-made maps that you make in the world builder. And I even added a clone world button so you can easily clone worlds to customize them in the world builder to play with your friends or in the free play custom lobbies. Speaking of worlds, to make it easier to find the world you want, I added filtering in the world menu so you can easily find the one you're looking for. A lot of games will keep a fixed aspect ratio for their entire game and all of their UI. This makes it really easy to design the UI because you always know it's going to be the same ratio. This generally works completely fine for one aspect ratio, but always seems to look a little off if your screen resolution is not the same as what the game was designed on, so it ends up getting stretched or distorted. So for Okashi Towers, the UI is completely scalable and the aspect ratio isn't fixed. As part of this update, I added the ability to scale up or down the UI so that you can fine-tune it to fit your monitor. I didn't just change the UI and all the menus, I also made a lot of changes to the actual gameplay. Your resource rate, which is the amount of candy resources you're gaining per tick, is now displayed next to your total resources. This was a small change, but it makes it so much easier to gauge when you'll be able to build new units or towers. Which for units or towers, when you play a lot of game with a lot of players, it could sometimes get pretty overwhelming to tell who is who. So I ended up making all teammates transparent and giving your own units a very bright green indicator to make it clear where all your units are. To me, this drastically improved the gameplay because it made it way easier to know exactly who is who and where everything is at with just a short glance. For the actual units themselves, it used to be hard to tell if they were attacking or getting attacked, so I added new stretch and squish animations along with some sound effects for whenever a unit is getting attacked, and I also thought it would be fun if they had little emotions, so I drew a bunch of little speech bubbles that pop up if they're taking a lot of damage. There were also a lot more small changes and fixes to the game, but the last set of big changes were to the world builder, which I added a number of new events to make cool custom worlds and game modes that include things like controlling the camera to make cutscenes, playing music or sound effects, activating triggers and deactivating them based on certain conditions, and really just a lot of stuff to make it easier for me to build out the tutorial and story mode maps. I know in my previous financial video, I said Okashi Towers was not really doing all that great, but I'm pretty optimistic about this release and all the changes that I've made to the game. I truly do believe at this point, Okashi Towers is a good game, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. So regardless of how it does financially, I feel good about what I've made and how I've grown as a game developer.